Look, I just wanted to bring to you guys' attention something that I feel like has not been getting enough attention over the last couple of days. So I am going to show this to you and then you tell me what you think. I guess ever since election day 2024, I have been saying this, but I've also made it very clear that I don't have any proof. I can't prove this gut feeling that I have. And that is that everything is not as it seems with that 2024 election, specifically the part where Trump won every swing state. I feel like that was very improbable, damn near impossible for that to have happened in the 2024 election. But Kamala Harris conceded immediately after the election was called, and we are in this hellscape now that we probably would not have been in had she challenged the results of the election. Look, it's easy to point fingers and say she should have done this or they should have done that. But the end all be all is there is a great possibility that something improper happened with the 2024 election, and a lawsuit in Rockland County, I believe, New York, is bringing some of what could have potentially gone wrong to light. Okay, this is reporting from the Economic Times, but trust, this has been reported on in multiple sources. There is a lawsuit that has been filed in the state of New York, and this headline says it all. Kamala Harris voters erased in Rockland. That is a question, not a statement. New York lawsuit says, check the paper. What we know so far. So let's roll to the synopsis. And again, this article appeared in multiple publications yesterday, June 10th, 2025. A lawsuit filed by Smart Legislation, a nonpartisan election watchdog, alleges serious voting irregularities in New York's Rockland County during the 2024 U.S. elections. The suit claims statistical anomalies and missing votes in both the presidential and Senate races. Voters reported their ballots for Democratic candidates were not counted, raising constitutional concerns. A New York judge has allowed discovery to proceed, opening the door to a possible hand recount and a wider investigation into what may have gone wrong on election day. The core of the lawsuit revolves around vote totals that, on paper, do not match what voters say happened at the polls. In some districts, hundreds of people reportedly voted for the Democratic candidates like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, but not for Kamala Harris, the Democratic presidential nominee. In several of these same districts, Harris received 0 votes. 9 voters in District 39 swore in affidavits that they had voted for independent U.S. Senate candidate Diane Sayre. The Rockland County Board of Elections recorded only 5 such votes. In District 62, 5 voters reported casting ballots for Sayre, but only 3 were counted. This is a nearly 50% shortfall in one case, said Lulu Friesdat, founder and executive director of Smart Legislation. There is clear evidence that the Senate results are incorrect and that there are statistical indications that the presidential results are highly unlikely. If the results are incorrect, it is a violation of the constitutional rights of each person who voted in the 2024 Rockland County general election. Another key focus of the lawsuit is the drop-off rate, a term used to describe when voters cast a ballot for one race but leave others blank or vote across party lines. A drop-off of 1 to 2% is considered normal. In Rockland County, however, analysts found figures that were anything but. Harris received 9% fewer votes than Gillibrand, a negative drop-off rate, while Donald Trump received 23% more votes than the Republican Senate candidate. These numbers are statistically rare. According to Max Bonamente, a professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, these data would require extreme sociological or political causes for their explanation and would benefit from further assurances as to their fidelity. Bonamente, who authored Statistics and Analysis of Scientific Data, will publish a forthcoming paper based on the Rockland data. His findings suggest that the results in 4 of the 5 towns in the county are statistically highly unlikely compared with data from 2020. So, why this county? Why now? Though election anomalies have been reported elsewhere, so not just in Rockland County, Rockland is the first county where they're being formally challenged in court. Similar issues surfaced in Clark County, Nevada, and parts of Pennsylvania, where bomb threats and machine malfunctions disrupted voting. What makes Rockland stand out is the level of documentation in voter testimony. Beyond affidavits, many Democrats in the area have reported being turned away from polling places, being told they had already voted, or checking ballot tracking systems only to find their vote was marked as not cast. Friesdat emphasized the need for a transparent recount. The best way to determine if the results are correct is to examine the paper ballots in a full, public, transparent hand recount of all presidential and Senate ballots in Rockland County. We believe it's vitally important, especially in the current environment, to be absolutely confident about the results of the election. So experts are urging caution, not alarm. Kostas Panagopoulos, a political science professor at Northeastern University, welcomed scrutiny but urged against assuming foul play. Statistical why can't I get that out? Statistical irregularities in elections should always be investigated, but the sources of such inconsistencies, which can include error or miscalculations, are not always nefarious. And to Mr. Panagopoulos, with all due respect, when you have a presidential candidate who telegraphs his motions by accusing the other side of doing things that he has either already done or that he plans to do, when that presidential candidate says that an election was rigged, and then he runs again, and we accept him on our ballots with open arms, we can kind of expect for him to do the thing that he was accusing the other side of doing. I don't think Mr. Panagopoulos is as cynical as I am, but this is the way I look at it, especially when we're talking about Donald Trump. Anyway, Mr. Panagopoulos says mistakes can happen. He adds, in any case, it does not appear that any of these inconsistencies would be sufficient to change the outcomes of any of the elections in question in New York State. That does not mean they should not be scrutinized. So, a court hearing has been scheduled for for September 22nd of this year. Plaintiffs are expected to request a manual recount of every presidential and Senate ballot cast in Rockland County. Depositions and forensic analysis of voting systems may also follow. I'm going to stop here, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name. There was a gentleman very shortly after the election who says that his job is basically scrutinizing these types of anomalies in elections. And what he found back then was that it was very likely that some tampering had taken place besides the turning people away, besides two voter boxes, the ballot boxes being set on fire, besides the bomb threats. Besides that, there are some people whose names were finding themselves being challenged as residents of the district in which they were trying to vote in. He found other irregularities, such as a person casting a vote and only to check later to see if their vote went through, and they find out that it didn't. When we couple what that gentleman, and I really wish, if I look it up and find his name, I'll put it here and you can look into him at your own discretion. But given that this gentleman had been sounding this alarm for months, and now we get to this investigation and this challenge in Rockland County, New York, how many coincidences before it's really a conspiracy? Okay, we're looking at June 9th, also from the Economic Times. Um, the headline they ran with that day was that Kamala Harris won the U.S. elections. Bombshell report claims voting machines were tampered with before 2024. We're going to go to the synopsis. Kamala Harris' election tampering story raises new questions about the 2024 U.S. presidential election outcome. A quiet but major change to voting machines by pro V&V was used in over 40% of U.S. counties. It was never publicly reviewed or disclosed. Watchdog group Smart Elections flagged suspicious updates, missing votes, as statistical anomalies, suggesting potential vote tampering. Now, this lawsuit is moving forward, challenging whether Kamala Harris may have actually won. One thing that we need to be very clear about is even if she did win, she already conceded the election and they had already certified Donald Trump as the winner. So he would not be like removed from office or anything like that. It is more or less, this would tell you what you're working with. That's first and foremost. But I would have to look into what the repercussions could be, because we know that even if we find that these machines were all tampered with, that a Republican House and a Republican Senate are going to say, hey, it was sour grapes. The Democrats are just trying to turn back the hands of time. They're sore losers, blase, blase, blah. We know that they would go down fighting. They would go down fighting. The only way that anything could possibly come from this is if we get a midterm election, and that's a very big if. If we're looking at the way that Trump is moving through our authoritarian checklist that we've been going back to every now and then, we go back to the checklist and we check off some more of the things that Donald Trump has done that fits into that checklist. He's damn near through the whole list now. He's almost through the whole list. But anyway, so if we get a midterm and the Democrats take back the House and the Senate, and then the House and the Senate, and we get our Democratic president, or just give us the House and the Senate in an overwhelming margin, and we would see impeachment papers they would draw up articles of impeachment on Donald Trump for tampering possibly with these elections. And that would be a way that you could get him and probably everybody associated with him on that ticket out of there. But that would be the only way that would happen. It would not happen in any other way. The Republicans would not be interested in investigating the machines. They would not be interested in investigating Trump. The only thing that they would want is to have their speaking points all aligned, so they can all be on one accord, so they can attack the truth with the same message, and they're unified. And you see that the one thing for sure, two things for certain: the Republicans, when it's time to get in lockstep behind Trump, you hear the same talking points over and over and over again. They are very good at getting behind their guy. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm going to try to remember to put both links in the description box. Look at this stuff and just tell me, doesn't it seem weird? All the things that went along with that election. Doesn't it seem weird that now we are getting information that these machines may have been tampered with? So yeah, I'm not going to read this entire article. I'm going to leave that to you. And if you read it and you have something that you think that I should know, put it down in the comments, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.